Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. It's your t-shirted historian who caught the flu. So, yeah. Wednesday started kind of coming down with some cold symptoms, and then Thursday night got horrible chills, just horrible monster chills. Fought those off, got through most of the day just fine. Nighttime comes again, having chills again on Friday. It's just crazy. Lots of sneezing, lots of coughing, and this cough is like the nasty dry cough. So it's like I'm sitting here chugging down cough syrup and cough drops and teas and everything else, and it's just kind of like laughing at me, going, "Ha ha! You really think this is going to stop me?" So yeah, if I sound wonderful today, or if I'm muted pretty often, it's probably because I'm having a coughing fit. I hope not to have too many, because we have an awesome guest on today, and we don't get him on very often, but I'm always happy when we do get him on, because, I mean, let me take a step back for just a second, okay? I've said this to Daniel over at Driving in Dragons, I think, that we have, in the gaming industry, we have certain people who I honestly consider to be genius, and I've met and had on my show like 3 of them, in my opinion. I'm looking to get a 4th. That's you, Mike Pondsmith. But one of them was Sandy Peterson from, Call of Cthulhu fame. The other one is Alexander McCrease from Axe and Ascendant. And the other is Mark Rein-Hagen. And why do I consider these guys to be geniuses? Well, it's because you start talking to them, and it's just insane. They're so perceptive. They're so on the ball. I mean, we were talking to Sandy Peterson, and that guy could switch topics with just absolute fluency, total memory, everything. I mean, it's just, that guy was just on, and he was just like liquid, and he could switch topics at a heartbeat. Like 1 minute I could ask him about Greg Staffordshire, and then the next minute I could talk to him about Doom, and he could switch with the conversation real quick. And I just realized, my God, that man's got a mind on him. I would have to sit in a room with him for a few weeks, maybe to get to understand him, how his mind works, because he's so many steps ahead of the game. Alexander McCrease is the same way. He's like a super brain. He's always researching. He's always breaking everything down into minutia. He's just an incredible guy. He's very smart. He's very perceptive. But he's also very kind. He's a very good guy. And that's one thing I will say about all 3 of these guys, too, is they're all very kind. And Mark Rein-Hagen is another one of those guys I consider to be a genius, not just because he made one of the best, one of the most beloved role-playing games out there that I still have a copy of, but it's the fact that Mark will go off on a tangent about stuff, and I'll feel myself wanting to ask questions, and it's like by magic, it's like he already knows what I wanted to ask, and he's already worked the answer into what he's talking about. I don't know how he does it, guys, but it's just like he has a sixth sense or something like that. And other panelists who have been on with him before have said the same thing. They're like, I had a question, but you already answered it, So it's pretty awesome when we have some of these luminaries of gaming on our channel, and I'm very proud that they have chosen to to grant me an audience, as it were. So let's not waste any time. Let's bring them on. Mark, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Well, a little under the weather, but I got some good panelists here to work with you, and of course I've got your stuff here, so I'll try to keep up with the conversation as best I can. Hopefully I won't cough your ear off.
Yeah. I hope you feel better soon.
Me too. Here's Jason. How are you, sir?
Good morning to you, or afternoon, or whatever it is, wherever you're at.
Good afternoon. We have Mr. Grimm.
There he is.
Hello. Hey.
Hello. We have Dash Attack, our VTuber friend.
Hey, Mark, it's nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you too.
And we have Mr. Shinatsky, who's also a gamer.
He's not the Messiah. He's a naughty, naughty vampire.
All right. So, the big word now is Fang Knight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
All right.
We're in the middle of our big open play test right now. Just waiting out the tariffs, because it's sort of pointless to do any Kickstarters or printing when you don't know how much they're going to cost. So we're just using this time to really hone in on the game. We have, I think I sent out like almost 500 PDFs now. And of course, those gets further spread out. We have a whole community sending in changes. And, unlike most game designers, I love feedback and pushback alike. I like both. And we're getting lots of it. And we're actually redoing whole rule systems, honing it in. I believe we're already at like a second edition level of the game, because we've worked on it so long, which is kind of cool because, a lot of role-playing games, they're very, very complex things. A board game is in many ways so much simpler and so much easier to test. There's just less rules, which is why a lot of role-playing games will publish, and then when they republish, that's when you get the real game. Like, I'm not afraid to say that happened with Vampire and Werewolf. It happened with Ars Magica, my first role-playing game. And I think this will be one of the first games I've ever done where the first edition will be very clean and very well play tested and very, very playable from the get-go. Like basically what that means is that if you have an inexperienced game master, we call a tail spinner, they can run it just as easily as an experienced one. Well, maybe not just as easily, but they can run it, right? Whereas a lot of games, their first edition, it takes a more experienced game master to run it. It's just the way it is. They're incredibly complex. Like, people don't realize, who are non-role players, just how complex a 300-page book full of rules can be.
Oh, I know.
Which is why I think most people, like even very good game designers and very good writers and people who write scenarios and stuff, it's a whole different thing to write a whole game. And it's easier to write a shorter game like Mork Borg and those other condensed games. They're great. I think that they're some of the best examples of game design. I'm not putting those games down, but a super slimmed down game without a real setting, is just so much easier than a full game with a full setting and a full set of rules. It's just a difference between a dune buggy and a performance sports car, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've worked on both, and trust me, I'd much rather work on a dune buggy. It's way easier to fix.
Yeah, speaking of cars, we got Daniel from Driving in Dragons with us today too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you're speaking a whole bunch of my language over there. I mean, for one, you sound like Archer. I don't know if anybody's ever told you that. I can't remember the voice actor's name, but guy who does Bob's Burgers and Archer.
Okay.
Johnny Benjamin.
Yeah, you sound straight up like Archer, so that's always funny. So
okay, I didn't
ready.
know. So who was it? I sound like? What's his name?
It's Archer from Archer.
Okay.
I can't remember the dude.
Show.
I can't remember the voice actor's name. It's an animated show, but just get ready for phrasing jokes. But yeah, I work on cars and actually developing a game system with exactly what you just said. Trying to build a game system for other people to go make their own games and settings, kind of like, GURPS that you're super
Okay, yeah.
And I very much agree with that. It's like getting the base core mechanics that people can use to do their own thing. 100,000 times easier than all the setting specific and complete game work. So cars, framework for system, just 100% speaking my language.
Good. At least my metaphor hit through with someone. I always love that.
Oh yeah.
Media feedback.
And you were nice enough to send a copy over for us to take a look at. I'll go ahead and put it up on screen while we talk, if you're all right with that. And let's see.
Well, I did
the layout myself. So, there is a couple pieces of AI art still. I use them as temp holders. There's not many though. Most of this art is done by human artists, but we do occasionally, because you'll see as we go through why it's necessary, because each page is done as its own mini chapter. And so we need art. We have art every single page. So if we had a page without, well, actually not every page. Some pages just have graphic design. But
I love that.
Pretty much every page has art. So, we need a lot of art. It's expensive. Very
wow. Expensive. I love this. There is something I did want to kind of ask you about, and I think you'll find this is kind of a truism. But would you say it's easier being, a single game designer, like the only guy behind the game, rather than having to work with a team?
Oh no, I have a team.
Oh, you do have a team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Jason's one of them. We got Alicia, who is sort of our head of development. I have a bunch of people who are working it. So Alicia Lee, Rocky Loretto Neto, Paul Beecham, Jason Brandt, Seth Nason, Jim Neely. So yeah, we have people from actually all over the world, which is kind of cool. Because I'm sort of that's the advantage, I guess, of me being well known, is that I can. It's easier to find people to work with you, and then I just also love collaboration, and I love teaching people how to game design, and so we can't really pay anyone until after the Kickstarter. But the deal is, at least, you'll have fun, and we'll figure out, I'll teach you everything I know. I won't hide anything. I'm transparent about my decision-making, about the money, everything else. So everyone on the team knows what's going on. So, and it's, but I'm very much, some game designers are very much solitary. And for me, I love pushback. I love back and forth. I love collaboration. I think the best games come out of that. It's just that, one person has to decide, the hard choices and kind of direct things. And of course, that's going to be me. You got to have sort of one person's vision. And my vision is that, first of all, I wanted to have the easiest possible game to play, because I believe, just like in Ratatouille, anyone can cook. I believe anyone can game. And by game, I mean role playing. I love role playing. I think everyone in the world should be role playing. I think school should be role playing. I'm obsessed with role playing. I love role playing. I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me, is me discovering role playing. I love everything about it. And but I think the games can tend to get too complicated. And any game where it requires an entire game system to make up your characters is not what I want, right? So this game, you can make a character in literally 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, 15. And so that's key. Learning the game is really easy because it's the D20. It's, the dice don't really matter. So I just made it so that, hey, everyone knows the D20 system. So it's familiar. People know what's going on. They can figure it out very, very quickly. And, there's going to be no one at the table going, I only play D&D. Well, if someone says that, you go, hey, it's the D20 system, right?
Yeah.
They can't, it's harder for them to say no, right? Because it's familiar game. Now, do we use the D20 in a very different way at times? Yes, of course. As any game designer knows, the D20 tends to be very yes and no, and it tends to break down in certain ways. So we found all kinds of ways to mitigate those sort of flaws. So, I think it works very well, and it lets us get at, this game, which is about what it is to be a vampire in a medieval and Renaissance world, and and get at some unique things in that world, which is called Lostlorn. But really, you can do your own fantasy world. But and it's going to be the first of 7 games. So we have a Wereborn game coming, which is werewolves, of course.
Oh yeah, there we go.
We have a Badlander game, which is like the Hunters game. We have a Witchen game, which is of course our sort of wizards game, and we have basically a Tro game where you play basically. It's kind of like a fairies type game, and then ultimately we're going to have a demon game where that'll sort of culminate. So it's going to be
these are all connected.
Quite the ride. It's all designed as well. Like in the World of Darkness, you couldn't really role play, a vampire with a mage with the werewolf, but in this system, we've made it very balanced so that you can play all the games at the same time. You can each have a different character, and there'll be a way to role play that, which I think will be super fun.
Awesome.
I think I know which one Dash is going to play.
The werewolf one, of course.
Of course. Actually, it's funny. I was kind of ruminating on something that you said the last time you came on, and it didn't actually click with me until like a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what made me think of this, but I saw the wisdom in what you were saying the last time you came on, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly what you said, but I think the rules of the games probably mean a lot less than your investment in the story and what's going on and in the characters, because we will play some really terrible rule sets in order to get to get what it is we need out of a good story or a good game. I mean, I've endured some terrible homebrew rule sets because I really enjoyed the other players. I really enjoyed the stories that were being told, the characters, the background, everything. So I think it matters a little bit less whether or not you're running like D20, D100, or D6 or
yeah. I mean, honestly, everyone argues over what's the best, and they each have their weaknesses and their good points. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I realized, okay, if I had to redo my life and I was going to go back and do Ars Magica or Vampire, would I do the dice the same or different? And I go, well, probably I'd do it different. And I would probably do it as D20 because that's what people were familiar with, and I might get just enough more players playing, and it would be easier transition, and I would do it in such a cool way that basically would show up D&D, right? It would imagine if I'd come out of Ars Magica with the system, the D20 system I have right now for Fang Knight, right? Like, or Vampire, it would basically blow away the D&D crowd. Like, oh my God, this is such a cool advanced way to do D20 that it would blow them away, right? But instead it was like, oh, this cool D10 system is so cool, and they didn't realize it's not the D10, it's the world and how we use the D10, right? So in a way, it took away from how innovative the system was because everyone just associated with a different dice. But really, with D10, D20, you can do all the same stuff we did with D10. Be very elegant, very cool, So it's funny. It's just how people think about it, But you're right. The story is the thing, We humans, we think in stories. Our consciousness is based on stories. Our culture and society are entirely story based. Stories are everything to us. We're storytelling apes, and that's what we do better than any other animal. And animals are, way smarter than we used to think, right? Like, if you had seen that video of the bear walking past a traffic cone on its side, and he just tilts it up and makes it upright and just keeps walking. you know, or you know, like a turtle that has a thorn in it, or is being chased by a shark that comes up to a boat and basically lets them pick it up so we can escape the shark. Like they're really clever and really smart, right? They're doing things that we only thought humans could do, right? They definitely are conscious. It used to drive me crazy. People said animals weren't conscious.
Oh no,
they are, and but one thing we do is we can tell these complex stories that I don't know, but I think probably most of them can't do, right? And these stories let us have cultures. They let us have a level of sophistication of communication where we can communicate, hey, this happened to me today when I was out picking fruit, and you should watch out for that part of the woods because of this story, right? And that's how it began, and so now it's this whole thing. So we're not all obsessed with stories, but stories like feed us in a way. So yeah, of course the story is the most important part. And you know, if you can bury your game rules in the story, which I think I did discuss this last time, then all the better, right? If you can make the setting and the story like your core game rules, like for instance in Vampire, you know, the traditions are the laws of the vampires, right? Well, they're also game rules, right? If you break the traditions, you're in trouble. And of course, you know, the whole point of labeling the traditions, they're called edicts in Fang Knight, by the way, is they're basically rules for the players to break. The whole point is to have rules that they do break, so then you have consequences, and then you have a cool story, and a bunch of shit happens, right? You have social rules and society rules, so the characters can break it. And one of the problems with D&D and a lot of fantasy games is that players break the rules all the time. Like they go in the city and they start a big fight, and there are no consequences, right? Then that's kind of where it becomes silly, very silly, because you know there's no consequences ever, and I think that's a mistake. I think consequences are fantastic. They really are charming, and that's why we have the whole medieval thing of if you do something wrong, you're going to be arrested and then ransomed back. So the whole point of arresting someone or capturing someone is to surrender in a battle and they're not going to kill you. They're going to make you hostage and then ransom you back to your people, which in the vampire's case is your firehold, right? And then what are people going to think of you back home? We just spent this amount of money to save your ass. You owe us, right? It's a great fun thing. Or maybe they don't want to ransom you back, and you're stuck there for a year as they winnow the price down. You kind of know your worth by how quickly they get you out. You know, so it has all these fun storytelling elements. And what's a year to a vampire, right? So, you know.
So I've got a question on that front there, because you touched on a couple of things and answered a couple of my own questions going through. Are you running? Is it actually D20 or is it D20 based? So did you take D20 system, you know, basically D&D, we may as well call it what it is. Did you take D20 system and then modify that into a new game this time to make it that much more familiar and essentially make a business decision? Doesn't matter what my system is, D20 actually works for what I want to do, and I'm just going to modify it a little? Or is it just I built my system custom for this game based on the general concept of D20 roll high?
Yeah, it's definitely the former. It's definitely like, you know, go where the grass is green, and you know, follow, you know, go where the people are. And right now, because of the Stranger Things boom and in 5e, you know, the vast amount of active gamers all know and play 5e. So we basically merged concepts from my other games. So instead of dots, we have diamonds. So all your attributes are 5 diamonds. And
right.
you take an ability plus a skill, add those together, add them to a D20, make that roll. And if you beat the scene difficulty, that's a new concept, by the way. Each scene, you have a giant D20 in front of you, and it goes from basically 10 to 30. And if you just move that D20 around and just show the scene difficulty, everyone tries to roll against that. And so that speeds up the game. And everything I did in this game, I did it based on me analyzing hundreds of hours of online footage and me going to conventions for many, many years and analyzing with a stopwatch how long different parts of the game take. And so one of the reasons I did scene difficulty is I realized through this analysis that a big thing that ate up a lot of time at the game table was people asking what the difficulty was, right? And that eats up a shocking amount of time. And just the game master having to think about that also makes it hard to be a game master. And we have a game master shortage right now, right? The game master shortage is very real. Lots of people cannot handle it. I think modern people are not as power hungry as maybe my generation was. I think my time, like early D&D, like people were game masters because it was a power trip, and it was fantastic. And I think that people are not quite into that the way they used to be. It's not is maybe socially acceptable, and it's really hard to be a game master when people will attack you, right? And so it's very, very hard to be a game master. So I've also done in this game everything I possibly could do to make it easier to be a game master, which I think is the big trend of games now. A lot of great games do that, where they offload all of the game master work as much as possible to the players. And then finally, we offloaded a lot of character creation to going up in ranks. So rather than choosing your subclass or your subrace right away, you do that as you rank up. And we do it in such a way that it makes sense. So you have your birthright, which is your clan, but your bloodline, which is your clan. But then as you go up and you choose your brood, which is your subgroup, you do that at third rank, which is third level. So it becomes a whole thing. Yeah, there you see the character sheet with the diamonds. So basically, that is D&D. Except that your affinity bonus, or whatever they call it, I forgot right now, is basically you take one of those abilities and you match it with a skill, or you can take a virtue and vile and match it with something.
One of the advantages of that sheet is you can run that as D&D, but if you're a White Wolf fan, you could run that as a White Wolf game. It's literally dual compatible, and so Mark's fans from Vampire can play that and run it the way they've always run it, or D&D's bonuses are 1 to 5 on attributes and such, and this still works. A strength of 1 would be like a strength of 12 in D&D with a +1 bonus.
Yeah.
So
if you want to play as a D&D, it's totally doable.
It's completely doable.
I'm sure people will be publishing the rules for that. The good thing about our system though is that your armor or your defense is basically what you're rolling against for your damage rolls. And so that means that, your armor doesn't stop you from hitting. It stops how much damage you inflict, which seems like it makes more sense, right? Like that's obviously makes more sense in the D&D system.
That's the better abstraction.
And it works much better, and it's really quite fun because that means that, for instance, like a dagger, I won't go into it all, but a dagger is 2d4, whereas a rapier is 3d6, and each one you get through the armor does a hit point of damage or more. But the thing about d4 is the highest result on any die always goes to the armor. So if someone has really, really good armor, actually a d4 can be better, which is actually why you had the rondel dagger and use daggers in duels between guys in plated armor. Mm-hmm. You would find a chink in their armor and you'd stick the dagger in and you'd twist, right? The dagger was better in some situations against heavily armored foe, and our system captures these little details that, as a weapons and armor nerd, I just love this stuff, right? I'll always watch those videos of those guys in Poland I love stuff. I know it's impossible for me to capture the full details of combat, that you can't do that, but you can at least capture enough of it that it feels authentic to some degree. It's not blatantly bullshit. And most games, our combat are blatantly, absolutely raw off, and that's okay, because we're mimicking storytelling more than we're mimicking the real life. But personally, I like a little bit, at least a certain degree of grit and reality. I like movies, for instance. I like the 70s movies, right, where it feels world, rather than the superhero movies are great. I've seen them all, but for me, they're not as good as a gritty movie that feels more realistic, right? I like fantasy, but I want some realism. Like Game of Thrones was a high fantasy world, but it was very gritty and down to earth in ways, right? Like if someone got wounded in combat, they're likely going to die, right? It was high magic, but low power, and I think that's the kind of world I like.
A question with that. From your initial version to what you have now, did you run across anything the equivalent of like celerity in Vampire, where it's a power or something else that it's so much better than everything else that why would people focus on anything else?
Yeah, that's an example of a first edition game. But yeah, we had some of those problems. Not many though, because I'm a much more experienced game master, so I knew from the get-go not to do that stupid stuff. Like I was pretty young when Vampire came out, and I still hadn't had that much experience. So those things sort of slipped by. Also, I wrote Vampire in just 9 months, and there's really my playtesters all quit because they thought the game was bullshit. So so I really, I was playtesting with just me rolling dice and trying to figure it out, but yeah, but there are, we found all kinds of crazy stuff in this system, not as big as the celerity thing, which was obviously a terrible flaw. But yeah, that's the great thing about open playtest and having a big crew, is that people, especially when you make it very clear to everyone, they can call you out. Like no, I hope no one's afraid to tell me that I'm full of shit. That would be a terrible thing for me, right? I would hate that. Like imagine like people being scared to tell you the truth. That's why I actually think being a billionaire would be a curse, right? Like you would never know the truth.
True.
Because once you're truly a billionaire, no one's ever going to tell you the truth again, are they?
No, they'd be too afraid of what you could do to them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like, even your loved ones, your family would not tell you the truth anymore. They wouldn't. They're not gonna. Well,
one thing I can definitely say I like already is the artwork. I mean, this is such a breath of fresh air, considering the D20, or I should say the D&D 2024 edition garbage. This
love that.
Yeah, it's kiddie stuff. I think is where I think gaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kiddie, and I'm like, give me the horror, man. I don't want the game to be 100% horror. I mean, vampires are meant to be, kind of like gothic superheroes, right? That's part of the thing.
Putting the edge back in fantasy.
Yeah.
Aside from that, if you put the cover back up for a second, I know you're clicking through the whole book here, but if you put that cover up, look at that. I mean, look at everything that is everything that I think a piece of cover art really should be. And you've got a vampire who's got kind of a stone colored face, who has moss and roots growing in around him, which shows you all the stuff you want to see. Like when I look at Vampire, what I see from that is I got a vampire, obviously, fangs, blood coming out of his mouth, the whole thing. I see that rolling stone has stopped and started to gather moss, which is the whole what is the problem with immortality thing that you get, because I've been here forever. I've seen it all. And the great drawback to having that immortality is you sit in the corner and you gather moss. That's what Tolkien touched on with like the elves starting to get world weary and the Ents turning into trees because they simply just stopped. There's your problem, and you see it all in that piece of art. That is a great cover.
Thank you. I really work hard on my covers, and like Vampire cover was key to a success. You
Yeah,
know,
it was.
it's so different from the existing covers, and for this one, I did have a spellbook type cover, right? And then I was like, you know what? People have done the fake spellbook cover before, right? The Codex cover.
Mhm.
So we have to do something else, and so this finally is what we came up with, and I'm really happy with it.
It'd be awesome if
By
you
the
could
way,
get it
this is
embossed.
meant to be a venerate. And a venerate is like a Methuselah. It's an ancient vampire who is now in crypts beneath your firehold. And as you go up in rank, you are offered to take a sip of their blood, and it'll give you a free point of arcanics. So it gives you an enormous power. It gives you extra like abilities, but it also lets them use you as their pawn. So you have a choice at these ranks as you go up in rank: is do I want to take that blood and become more powerful, but become this venerate's pawn? And so it's up to you as a player. Do I take it or not?
I already like that.
That's a
that is-
cool mechanic.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's up to the game. And it's like for a lot of our mechanics, we kind of suggest what to do with it, but we're very vague. So it's up to the table to figure it out. I think too much, a lot of games they try to explain every little detail, every little situation, and that's why the rules are so long. And instead, what we are trying to do is we're trying to do that when it's really important, like combat or weapons or things like that are very persnickety, and people might not have a good idea. But if it's a storytelling thing of like, hey, does the venerate fuck with you hard or easy, and what do they do? Well, leave that up to the table to figure out. The tail spinner and the players will figure it out, right? They'll have fun with it, and you can give them some hints, maybe a fun chart to roll on, but don't come up with pages of rules on it, because that's boring. I think you don't need pages of rules for everything. Some things, yes, absolutely. And so that's why we have 40, almost 50 pages of charts in the back of the book, which for anything that you don't know what to do, like we have all these charts. There you go. I'll go back up a little bit. A little further.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
A little further. A little further. Okay, there. These are the charts. So you could roll up a Badland Monstrin. Just roll a Badland Monstrin. Up here, a Monstrin is a monster. And then here you can roll up an Abysma Monstrin. And it's just all there, right?
Well, I think the obvious question a lot of people are going to say is, well, since it's D20, does this mean I can use my existing D20 products with it?
I mean, sure, you could. I mean, the thing is that our damage system is different. So you'll have to adapt the hit points, but we have a pretty simple way to. We just basically say it's for every 3 D&D hit points, that's 1 hit point in our system, right?
Oh, wow.
So just because I like lower numbers, I think big numbers are hard to do. So that you can roll on that. If you need an event to happen in your firehold, okay, you want to go hunting for blood, here's a way to hunt for immortal, hunt for a beast, or what happens if you botch.
I was just going to say, yeah. No, go ahead.
So, do you have a glossary and a pronunciation guide?
Yeah.
I don't believe a pronunciation guides, because in the real world, people pronounce things differently, right? Like people always ask me, is it Bruja or Bruja? And I go, it's both. Yeah. Like, it's both. So like I think it's really fun when people say different pronunciations. So I don't want to do it. But I will probably this time, because video is such a big part of our culture. I'll probably go through and do a video guide on how I say things. I'm just afraid that it's gonna.
Wait a minute, Brucia?
Is there a page XX?
I
need one.
We use the PDF pages currently, but in the final book, I probably will have a page XX.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Do you have the rating like the old books did, where you're going, by the way, this is a game for mature people. Don't expect it to be sunshine and rainbows? Because
I don't have that currently.
No trigger warnings or anything.
No, I don't believe in that stuff.
Yeah.
But I do have look on page 7. I do write a very poetic thing where I kind of get at like what the theme of the book is about, and I think it does a very good job explaining, that this is hardcore horror, and maybe be careful, but it's not framed. I always really hated putting those warnings in, and everyone else at White Wolf kind of forced me to, and nowadays, of course, the pressure's even higher, and I think the best way to do that is the age-old way humans have been giving warnings always, which is the way you do your cover, the way you do your art, the way you present your work. Are cues to make it clear to people, hey, if you're sensitive, because I honestly don't want to hurt someone who's not into horror, right? I don't want someone who hates horror or could be, affected by that. So what you do is you make a really horrific cover, right?
Yeah, the Silent Hill games used to be very good at like doing that, of demonstrating what you're getting into just through like the overall style.
I think that's the unintended consequence of the lazy parent.
Yeah.
Because
so here the Grim Chronicle offers a substantive fare, most appealing to those of darker tastes, and serves to animate the most grisly of reveries. So basically, if you read that and you think that's not a warning, then that's on you, right? But it's done in a poetic, cool way that I don't think is going to bother people like me who hate warnings. Like I don't.
Yeah, I think that's appreciated.
I don't
wish
want
more
warnings.
people
I
did
don't
that.
want it. Like for me, it's just like too
on the nose.
Yeah, it's just like it's like find a way to do it in a cool way, and don't make a big presentation that you're cool and you're doing this warning, right? Like it's not cool. You're detracting from the artistic quality of your product and putting attention on yourself by doing that, right? Like I understand the need for a warning, I do.
Yeah.
But find a way to do it in a cool way that doesn't put attention on you, because attention shouldn't be on you. The attention should be on your product and the experience you're about to give people. You want to bring them into the experience in a beautiful step-by-step way. And I have spent literally 100 hours thinking about how the first 40 pages of this damn book is going to look, so that I can move people in to an experience page by page by page. So as they're opening this book and going through those first pages, they're having an experience that I want them to have, which is to pull them into the world. There are no rules, really. It's just meant to pull you into the world, and explain the world in a very cool way, where very few words per page, and just be like this experience of a world awakening inside of you. And that is the world of vampires.
I've often thought it might be fun to do something with horror games in the way that William Castle did with B movies. Yeah, have a disclaimer or a release that they sign in the front of the book. Yeah, like the way he had like a nurse outside the cinema and things like that.
Yeah. Actually, that might be fun. I should write that up as before you play this game, have your players all sign this contract.
In
and
blood.
The first part of the contract is like, I indemnify the game master for any mental harm I might be inflicted, and I agree to the following: that I will, play my character. I will come prepared. That actually would be fun to have, but
waiver. We are not responsible for you becoming a creature of the night. Should you play this bug?
I love that.
I mean,
don't electrocute your players, kids.
If you lose sanity as a result of this game, we are not responsible.
When you start smacking people in the face with like obvious warnings in the front of everything, it's really immersion breaking. I mean, you're trying to suck me into an entire world, into an entire feeling, into an entire atmosphere. And it doesn't matter where you put it, whether you put it right up front or right in the middle or two pages in or whatever. When you give a blatant, hey, hold on 1 second, guys, just so you know what to expect, It's like, I don't want to know what to expect.
Yeah.
Nothing grows when you tell me that there's going to be a flower at the end. I don't get to enjoy growing the plant. And that's just all there is to it.
And I have many friends who very much believe in that, and they very much think that needs to be the way it is. And so I don't want to attack that as wrong, but I will say that I think it puts too much attention on you, the game designer, as being, oh, I've done this, aren't I cool? And it detracts from the game, and the game should speak for itself. And it's my, it's not like I don't believe in warning people. It's just I think you can do it in other ways.
Yeah.
Like there's no way anyone could open up this book and think to themselves, oh, this is gonna be a light fantasy game. No, it's gonna be pretty clear. This is really, really dark, right? and it's gonna go there, right? And if you open this book, you don't think that, then a warning tucked in some page is not going to help you, right?
No kidding. Hey, I think that actually segues pretty good into that comment from earlier that's been sitting in private chat forever.
There we go. Yeah, let's move that up. Okay, so from Savo, who is also an artist and a really good friend of the channel. So how does Fang Knight deviate from the more common horror/vampire tropes?
Well, first of all, most horror is about the monster coming to get you, right? And so this game is similar to Vampire in that you are the monster. And so for me, this has always been what my games are about. Is I love every one of my games is basically about, even Ars Magica is basically about, what is it like if you become the bad guy? Like I love that British clip that everyone's seen. Wait, are we the baddies? That's funny. Like that is classic. Like, because that is how it is. Like people all the time take politics, and I tend to look at everyone as weird in their politics. I have a very different point of view from everyone else, which is why everyone kind of hates me. But I'm like, I think everyone has weird views, right? And I think everyone, including me, probably is the baddie to someone else, right? And so I love the idea that when you play a monster, you very much are the bad guy. And then how are you trying to be good within that framework? Like, if you're in the framework of you are like a monster, then how can you play a moral character in that universe? Because that's what I would try to do. I try to be moral. I believe very much in ethics and morality. And even my characters, very rarely will play a character who is like, revels in blood. That's fun once in a while.
Let's look at the
my characters are moral, like I'm trying to be. I try to figure out a way in which to try and not be evil all the time. And I think it's interesting when you play a monster. And so that the horror is you doing the horror, right? And so this game really delves into that, because the vampires are defending the world from the Hellmaw, from the this abysma that's beneath the firehold, and the Maw is right there in the middle of their firehold. They're defending the world from it, yet they have to go down in that Maw and fight the demons and their armies and all the denizens of the deep, and eventually can even go to hell, right? Which is literally beneath them, 1,000 levels of the abysma down, right? And so they're fighting demons, but yet there's some idea that maybe they're part demon themselves, or they have demon blood in them, or the Venerates are worship demons. The Venerates take demon blood. And so like there's this whole thing of like, are they really defending the Maws at all, or what's going on? And so there's this whole level of horror which is sort of, kind of like the Cthulhu of you don't know what's really going on. These manifest evil is so big, it's so much bigger than you, that you're a monster and you're caught, so it's like Call Cthulhu, where you're playing the minion monsters. You're playing the minions of the great Cthulhu, and you don't even know what you're doing or why. You're just following kind of orders, right? But you're trying to figure it out. You're trapped in a system. And that to me is very horrific. Like what to me, like, is it, you could never do a movie about this, but I think it's very, very interesting. I mean, it's too real world, but like we've seen a lot of movies about being in the slave camps, but I thought that one movie where it was about the commandant's family living next door to the concentration camp. I forgot the name of it, but it was fascinating. Like playing, like understanding how it was to be a Nazi conducting all these horrific orders. Like, wow, that to me is very horrific. And I wouldn't want to play an actual game like that because I don't want to play a Nazi. I don't.
No.
Right?
Who would?
But in a fantasy world, playing a vampire who is a monster, now that's different, right? Because it's fantasy, and so I can explore what it's like to be an evil monster and still a player character and still seeking truth and maybe justice and fairness and honesty and honor, right? All those human traits that are still maybe there. And that is, I think, fundamentally why vampires are so fascinating, because they're so human and yet they're also monsters.
Indeed.
And this takes that and it does it times 100.
Is
To
there a
me-
meta plot we're going to have to worry about?
Sorry?
Is there a meta plot we're going to have to worry about? Because that's like in the 90s. Not just you, but also like Deadlands, that whole thing where like there's a meta plot, and that kind of derailed a lot of games.
Yeah, there is no. What I had written down for Vampire the Masquerade is there'll never be Gehenna. It should always be a thing that's off in the distance. It should never, ever happen. That was part of my master plan. I was kicked out of the company, and they went ahead and did it, which ended the company. It destroyed the company. It was an incredibly stupid thing to do, very short-sighted and short-term, and it was very, very foolish. So there'll be no meta plot in that sense. I believe we'll always have the start date be the same year, but I think we're going to try to avoid naming that year. It's going to be kind of vague, so that and then in the novels things may happen. So we can have novels and we can have things happen in the novels. We're already writing 2 novels. So those would be really great. I'm really having fun writing novels. It's sort of a new thing for me. And we're going to have a whole series of 9 novels, 3 trilogies. So it'll be this whole building story. So I guess we can see that as a meta plot, but that won't be in the game system because gamers need a setting and they can build on that, right? But really, Fang Knight is not designed for a set setting. It's like you could take Fang Knight, you could drop it into your existing fantasy world, and play them as you discover this firehold or you are from this firehold, and you could drop it into any fantasy world and you could make it work.
Like Forgotten Realms. Nice.
Yeah, so you can have it with your fantasy elves and dwarves you wanted to, or when Badlander comes out, our fantasy race will be in that, so you could use them or some mixture, or not at all, or you could play it in medieval Europe if you wanted to, right? Like it's meant to be very like the Fang Knight itself is very focused on the vampires and the Abysma, and it mentions the crown and relationships with the church and the crown and all this sort of thing, but it's very general, so because we need that in there because it's fun to play and how it works, and there's Fairyland and there's the Blight Lands and there's all these different lands you can go to, and we have all this information, but I think it's done in a clever enough way that you can put that in any fantasy world. We're not requiring this to be a specific world.
Awesome. I've got to pay a little bit of credit here to Mercurius, who has given us Australian $2. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. You're like the only reason this YouTube channel ever gets paid. But thank you, Zone of Interest. So your clip. Let's find something appropriate.
AI ruins everything.
Fantastic.
I love that one.
That made me happy. At so many levels.
It's so good. Man, this artwork is so cool. I love this. What's this? The Boss Bazook? What?
Yeah, that's one of the
Yeah.
lines. Derek Stevens is probably our lead artist. I mean,
He is our lead artist. We credit
his
him
artist.
as lead artist.
Derek is the one who introduced me to Mark as well. And Derek and I went to high school together. He is so good. His art is just
and gotten so much better. Like as he's
so much better.
So much better. Yeah.
He's so in demand. He did the cover of one of Red Room's recent books, and golly, he's good.
Yeah, he is. Look at that. That's great.
Yeah, I think anyone who plays this game, if you know, the art is definitely going to be a highlight. The layout, not so much. I actually did this layout on Google Docs because I didn't want to pay anyone for their layout, and Google Docs works fine enough for my needs. Of course, it'll have to be redone for the book, but for playtesting, I think it looks pretty good, and it definitely is proof of concept that you can have each page be its own mini chapter and have very few words and have it very easy to read. And the idea is you have this text split up, because I believe, the modern gamer is just not prepared to read, 5 pages of columns, right?
True.
You could have stopped at read.
Yeah.
Hey, I actually got
as a role playing as an art form requires readers, right? I at some point we're gonna have AR games and computer role playing games that are good enough to be real role playing.
True.
At that point, you don't need to read anymore. But
Almost
still,
there.
I hope that 100 years from now, there's still people with books and pieces of paper at a table in real life role playing. I really hope that's and I think it will be. I think there'll always be people who will do that. Because I think it's really special and really, really cool.
I unfortunately have
kind of necessary to develop the imagination, right? Like that's like there's no secret that a lot of Hollywood writers and creators and people really big, role played as kids and teenagers and adults because nothing trains your imagination better, right? Like
Indeed.
There's nothing like it.
Well, Dash has got to go, Mark, but
Okay.
Dash, hey, thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad I could make this, and I'll definitely keep an eye on all your books. Like this sounds like it. I think this has a lot of potential.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Take care, man. And while I got him here, it's a Jack McCarthy for $5 American. Thank you very much, sir. Super chat dedicated to Vaclav Havel. It's an honor, Mr. Rein-Hagen. Hail t-shirted one. Thank you very much.
Good
Love
stuff.
Vaclav.
So here we go. I think this is a good one for this one.
For you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
I'm sad that was his last role, but he went out like a professional. He played it totally straight.
The Boss Bazook. I want to hit this, Mark. I love Mark. People who know Vampire the Masquerade, they're going to want their clans. This game has its bloodlines. I'm going to say something that I think is maybe controversial, but I don't think it will be down the road. I think the 7 bloodlines that Mark created for Fang Knight are, and I am even wearing a Clans Miske shirt right now. I think his 7 bloodlines for Fang Knight are better than the 13 clans of Vampire the Masquerade. And I run Masquerade every month and have been since it came out. And I am excited with what he and Alicia have come up with for the clan, or for the bloodlines they're called, and for them the covens, which are kind of the factions like the Cam and the Sabbat and stuff
Covens
like that.
are like your character class in a way.
They're so evocative. There's so much creativity behind them. When this comes out, I hope that people love them as much as I do. I feel like this is what he was always heading towards. I know that's a bold statement. I think people will fall in love with the Bloodlines and the Covens. I think they're just amazing.
No kidding. I mean, to this day, I still know lots of people who still play old school VTM. Not, the new stuff is like, yeah.
I still run it every month. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like Dark Ages better than Vampire the Dark Ages, better than Vampire the Masquerade, because I like my castles and I like my swords. And I want a little bit of fantasy. And for me, Fang Knight does that because, as Mark said, you can put it anywhere, but the default is Lostlorn, which is Mark's first D&D setting that he created ages ago. And so there is that fantasy setting if you want it. To me, it's best of all worlds, and that's what I love about it.
Hey, Ravenwolf, it's good to see you, man.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, we got Mark Rein-Hagen.
What's up, Mark?
Hey, how's it going?
Good to finally meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
All right. To me, there are elements of this that seem very Dark Souls in a way, with the fireholds being the basically like they're giant fortresses that are situated on top of, for lack of a better word, I guess, gates to hell, right?
Yeah, literally gates to hell.
Yeah. So,
although it's not like a metaphysical, cross-dimensional gate, it's literally like it's how the medieval mind believed hell was. They believed heaven was literally above you, and they believed hell was literally below you. And so you go deep enough through the abysma beneath your level upon level, cavern upon cavern, tunnel upon tunnel, shaft upon shaft. You keep going down, eventually you're going to get to hell. But we've actually made, I think, a really cool, and I love roguelike games, right? And I know there's a huge fan base for roguelike games. And so, actually, I can announce this. A friend of mine who I used to work with at the NSA is, I shouldn't have said that. Anyway,
we're on the list.
We're working on a computer version of Fang Knight already, which is going to have roguelike qualities. So it'll be a procedural dungeon crawl underneath once you go down underneath, but as well as have politics and role playing and all that in the firehold. But basically, the dungeon is meant to be, the abyss is meant to be this place you can go adventure, but it makes sense in a way that a lot of dungeons don't, right? So for instance, we have a cold side where the cold air is running down and water goes down. And then we have the smoke side where the smoke and cinders from the Infernal are working their way upwards. So there's two halves, and there's the Midlands, which are sort of the in-between zones where they can use the water and the heat combined to kind of grow plants and do things. So there's sort of three different realms in the Abysma, and we have so much detail on it that I think it makes sense as a world unto itself in a way. It's going to be very fun and very cool, and be something different.
I wish I'd known about that, because I would have invited Basic Expert to come hang out with us, because he has a whole thing on the mythic dungeon experience and how
he would enjoy it.
I would love
enjoyed
to read about that if you have any links you can send me.
I'll see if I can find some to his blog, because and I know he's got lots of YouTube videos on it.
If you guys haven't checked it out, V Rising might be up your alley, because that's literally not vampires and castles and going into mines.
What's it called?
V
Rising.
V Isaac?
V Rising.
V Rising, okay.
As in Vampires Rising.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played that one. Yeah. Well, as you do.
Yeah, standard decor.
Well,
cheers up a
my
dungeon.
enemies adorn my house. That's what everyone wants, right?
Oh no! Okay, now see, this is like the first time I've actually seen an Eastern style blade here, because that's obviously a katana wrap.
Yep. So the idea of Lost Lorn and you know whatever world is set it in is that there would be Earth influences in it, and so as to not be accused of culture appropriation.
Oh no!
In Lost Lorn, we say that all these different cultures are actually descended from people who came over from Earth.
Right.
So it's quite literally people from Earth came through the Tempest. Maybe they had a shipwreck or a storm. You know, their ship got caught up in a storm, and when they came out of the storm, it was in Lost Lorn. So that way we can get away with it. Our ECR, I think that's a fun bloodline.
They are fun.
They're basically very manipulative. Think they're the bosses. You know, of course.
Very French Renaissance.
Yeah. So basically, the further you get out of the cities, the more medieval the world becomes, and the more raw and rugged. But the more in the cities you are, the more Renaissance it is. So you can kind of have a gamut of that. I'll answer the question. How does Fang Knight deviate from the more common... Oh, no, we already answered that one.
And Mark, you've answered about Lost Lorn a little bit. You've talked about that. We've now talked about the bloodlines, the covens. We've kind of hit that. Do you want to... You and I have been talking the last 24 hours about puzzle boxes and
oh, yeah. Do you want to open up that doc I sent you?
Yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah, that's T-shirt. You're saying that too. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one.
Oh, yeah. That's a good question. Actually, first of all, they don't bury their dead because if you don't burn your dead in Lost Lorn, they can turn into zombies, what they call nameless. And they can be reanimated. So everyone cremates their bed so that can't happen.
Oh
and
my gosh! You mean
the criminals? Anyone else is that after you hang them, you throw their bodies down a pit so they can be used eternally as slaves and suffer as if indeed they're still conscious. No one's quite sure about that. They can suffer as basically nameless miners beneath the ground. People do bring holy relics, and they bring unholy relics with them of all kinds because to survive the abysma is very, very hard. So there's a variety of ways they do that. But bringing relics with you, they're actually called relica. They're basically our magic items is very, very key. But they're magic items that often have shards of motes in them, so they're intelligent. They can be stubborn or refuse to work. They work in various types of dwemer better than others. So if they're sacred relic, they would have a sacra dwemer. And so they would work very well against profana, which is the profane, which is the demon shit. But maybe they wouldn't work as well in the withera, which is a place of death and decay.
Well, sorry, I had a coughing fit there a second ago. But oh my gosh, what was I going? Oh yeah, okay. Since you've already talked about reanimating the dead, I was gonna say, it's been on the tip of my tongue the whole time, since leading up to the interview today, because I've been kind of on a zombie kick here lately. So I'm thinking it's like, so this means in Fang Knight you could actually have to go and put down, villages full of turned undead and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, that's in there. I mean, especially we've got one of the bloodlines absolutely plays with the zombie concept.
The Bazooka, in fact, are the zombie masters. They basically make zombies. They play with them. They modify bodies. They can take parts of different monstran zombies and stitch them together to make a cool zombie. So you have 6 arms or 2 heads, or so they do all kinds of weird stuff with bodies.
Mark, I'm going to interrupt you. Do you have Kickstarter. We don't have the Kickstarter active yet, do we? For this?
For the Fang Knight?
Well, for what you and I've been talking about the last 24 hours, the
Bloodstone triptych.
Yeah,
no,
is there
but I did send them the doc.
Oh, that's right, you did.
The doc.
Okay, so bring that up.
This is our project that's coming up. We actually have a Kickstarter. We can't do the Fang Knight right now because of the tariffs, but we can't predict what's going to happen. So, but with the I have been talking to a friend of mine who's an engineer, and he had a $1 million Kickstarter doing a puzzle. And this is a puzzle box that he designs on his laser. He's designs himself. It's got tons of moving parts and hidden compartments. And we're doing a new one for basically with a vampire theme. And it's going to be a supplement for 5e, for old school Renaissance games. And even better, the puzzle box itself forms a DM's screen. So the puzzle parts will face the players. It'll be in 3 panels. Remember what a medieval triptych was? It was like a portable altar that you would put up in your house. And this is going to be a 3-panel triptych with 3 different puzzles on each panel. And you can go down, you'll see more pictures. And basically, it's going to have, in the first one, we'll have a secret compartment where you will be able to open the panel, and you will have you'll find our book, which is this hardback player's guide book to the island of Bloodstone. And then the riddles and everything, the clues are all in there. And so it's a combination actual puzzle that you do on the board, but the clues and how you solve it and all that will be more literary and riddle based, and you got to read the book and figure it out, and most importantly, play the adventure. So you can do a 3-part or maybe 9-part, 9-game session adventure where you're trying to figure this riddle, and then when you finally open the last secret compartment on the 3rd panel, you get a Bloodstone pendant, which is what you've been looking for the whole time. So I think this is not something that gamers have ever seen before, and because it's handmade in America, we can't do it that cheap. But it's made of beautiful real wood. It has moving parts, secret compartments. It'll come with 2 hardback books, full map, different envelopes with origami folded letters in it, and it's going to be something else. And plus Jason and I are writing a full D&D style, old school Renaissance style adventure. I think it's going to be like nothing that's ever been seen before in gaming.
Well, excuse me for a moment. Holy shit!
Right?
And we're doing this Kickstarter in a month, right? so that, and it's all made in America, baby. Everything's printed in America, which I've always wanted to do. Like, I'm very much into made in America. I'm not like I don't believe in like America first necessarily, but I like making stuff here. I think it's good. So
wow,
100% made in America and assembled in America, and even better, if you're like a crafty person, you want to make it yourself, you get a much cheaper price. So we have a video which will tell you how to do it, and basically with a rubber hammer, and a couple other simple tools, you can basically make this yourself and save a bunch of money. And it'll come pre-painted and pre-stained, all the parts, right? And you'll be able to make it yourself.
I can feel my wallet just screaming at me. Oh.
The books are absolutely amazing. From our first Kickstarter, oh my gosh, they're just gorgeous.
Yep.
It's hard to describe. I think.
Wow.
These books are just mind-blowingly good.
And we basically pre-designed them to be like the player's guide has no rules in it. No, it's just straight up lore. So
literally
designed it to be almost like for something like this. I didn't know exactly what was coming, but I knew something was coming.
the Red Book is a journal of an explorer named Adsquill who found Bloodstone Isle. The entire thing is player facing. I can give this. I did this yesterday with a kid. An 11-year-old kid came by to play this game. Give him this book and say, this is entirely in character. There are no rules. There are no references to it being a role-playing game. This is one guy's notes on the island, but then it corresponds to all the stuff that I've got in the GM's book. And so if he looks up and says, oh, hey, and I just randomly open to the Great Oasis, I can go to the equivalent page and say, okay, so I know what's going on in the GM's book at the Great Oasis. There are a pair of books that are partners to each other, and one is entirely in character and one is entirely GM. It's a brilliant idea.
Shit, this reminds me of the old Book of Nod.
Yes. I love that book, and I love like that's the immersion you get when it's just all lore is unbeatable. And the idea for this is to sort of be for the D&D players and the old school Renaissance players is kind of a Ravenloft feel. So it's of course about vampires. So you go to this island and then you realize you're trapped there because it's the eye of the hurricane. There's like a permanent hurricane circling the island, so you're trapped there. And so you only have the island to go to. It's kind of a forced, focus on this island. But there is a little city here, a port, pirates, and 2 sects of vampires. And you got to kind of figure out what you want to do. And sort of, it turns out one of the vampires is the one sort of holding you hostage. And, if you solve the puzzles and you figure out, of course, we have hints, just like the if you can't solve the puzzle directly from the book, it's possible. But if you can't, you can just do an extra side adventure and get one more hint. And we have these envelopes that come out. So you'll basically, no matter how bad the group is at puzzles, eventually you'll figure it out with more hints. And by the way, our engineer, Brady, Chris Ramsey, the famous magician who lives in Canada, and he does all the reviews of puzzles. I don't know if I love his channel. I'm a huge fan. This is one reason why I found Brady is that he never uses hints. He prides himself on never, ever using hints. But when he did Brady's puzzle, his first puzzle he ever did on Kickstarter, he spent 9 hours, couldn't figure it out, had to open the hint envelope. So that shows you how diabolical our puzzle master is. Brady is a trained engineer, and he has a diabolical mind. So I think together we're going to come up with something. We're doing the literary side. We're doing the riddles. He's doing the engineering. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Well, we've only gotten into the first 90 pages. This is a 297-page book. Holy crap. Yeah. And it's like every page is just awesome. I don't want to stop looking at it.
But a fun read. It's one of those books that, because there's not a lot of writing on each page, you find yourself turning pages quickly, which builds momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get through the book a lot quicker. I mean, and it's more fun, it seems like.
So MSR is the first one of the covens. These are like your classes, your jobs. And the vampires kind of invented the covens because the bloodlines are fighting so much. It was breaking apart the Order of Amarantha, which is their order of vampires that kind of organize things and stop them from killing each other. So they invented the 7 covens to kind of each have different jobs. Like the Emissara, obviously, they go and deal with the courts and deal with diplomacy and so on. And they have a little less infight in the bloodlines, too.
Raven, you're pretty quiet. Are you just flabbergasted as I am? Or?
Actually, no. I've had this PDF for a little while. I've been looking through it, and I'm seeing a lot of familiar stuff. But, so far, I haven't been able to play it yet. But what I've seen of it so far, I've loved.
Oh, all right. Daniel, how about you, man?
I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm just sitting down, listening and soaking it in. But it's it's going to be one of the few Kickstarters that I jump on backing.
Awesome.
I think so.
Yeah, I love the Hunt Masters. They're my favorite thing. I'm a hunter. I used to do a lot of boar hunting back in Republic of Georgia, and I know that's not so considered so cool, but
I'm in Texas. It's cool.
I love pig hunting. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, anyone who lives in the country, they understand. Like, if you don't have hunters of deer and boars, you're going to have a real problem.
Oh yeah,
Dogs will tear everything up.
We have got javelina hogs, and we got just big wild pigs they're so big they can mess up a truck or a car pretty easy.
Yeah. There's nothing like a wild pig, a wild hog is it's the same species, but boy, do they change after they just change into beasts, scary beasts.
Hunting isn't cool here because it's a rich person's pastime.
Oh, yeah.
Poaching, on the other hand, that's
pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some hunting in America, which is rich person, but I would say the vast majority of hunting is regular folk.
Oh yeah, in America.
And by the way, for all I'm an environmentalist, and duck hunters, Ducks Unlimited, have done more to save wetlands than any environmental organization in the world. They have saved so many wetlands that it's ridiculous.
Because they want to use them.
Yeah, they want to use them. Like ducks need wetlands. Like they got to have wetlands, and they got to be spaced the right distance from the south all the way to northern Canada, right? You can't have any big gaps, right? So they had a plan. They planned out a whole system to keep the duck populations healthy, and it's worked fantastic. They're still doing it. Cavalier are great. They're basically the paladins. So they're basically anyone who loves dark paladins. That's a Cavalier. I'm into the Cavalier.
I like the Cavalier. They're a favorite.
Like what I obviously called it the game Fang Knight. I'm obviously very into knights and all that kind of stuff. Because I think it's really cool. It's really fun. But I've always liked dark knights.
The mix, there are 7 bloodlines and 7 covens. So the mix and match gives you 49 options, and it's fantastic. Just the combo. You're never going to get bored. There's always something new to try out. Look at that! Look at that artwork. I've been I've been texting Derek while we've been talking.
That's a new one he did just for us. The old one I didn't quite like it. And I go, Derek, could you just give us a new one? And he goes, sure. What do you want? And he just did it for me in one day.
Yeah, he's so good.
How do you handle minions? Like you mentioned zombies earlier. How do you make it so that you could have like a zombie horde, but it doesn't get bogged down in like a million
what we have minion rules. So they're called knaves, or you can have nameless. And the idea is you have one shield knave when you're a Fang Knight, which is ranks 1 through 7. And then when you're a Fang Lord, you have 5 minions.
That's cool.
And if you're Bazbazook and you can have nameless, you can have one giant servant, or later on 5 that follow you around. So I like minions because the way they work here is they don't make attack rolls because that's too complicated, right? Like having the game master literally makes very, very few rolls, right? Only at key times. Normally the players do all the rolls. Right. And so basically the minions will make a roll. If the players miss their roll, the enemy minions then get an attack. And they do automatically just roll damage. That's all they do. So if you miss your attack, the bad thing is that the bad guy minions then get a free, if they're in range, will get a free attack against you. And it's not huge damage, but boy, does it add up. And if the bad guy misses their attack roll, boom, your minions get to attack it.
That's interesting. It's like an automatic process. We dealt with something.
It streamlines the combat, makes you feel like you got lots going on, but it is not complicated and it's fast. And I believe that a game is a series of interesting choices, you know, and it should be really fun to make choices. I like the game part of role playing. I'm not one of those people who's like, you know, it should just be the story. You don't need rules. No, the point is rules and story together. I like thinking about how to mini-max a situation. You want that. You just don't want to spend hours bogged down in one combat, right? You want to be fun and fast. You want to have some really key decisions. You want to feel like you made a difference. You want to feel like that you had a strategy and, you know, kind of worked or didn't. And then you want it to be, you know, over fairly quickly. You know, not too quickly, but fairly quickly. And I think we got that. It is lickety split, but you get to make lots of choices. You're just not wasting a lot of time in bullshit. We do have drama coins, which are fun. We have crux dice, which is like your side's morale in a combat.
Applied minion field theory.
Nice.
We're actually over our hour, but I just wanted to be mindful of your time. I don't know if you've got other stuff.
I have a bit more time.
Okay.
I'm just out of beer.
All right. Hey, that's a crisis. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Serious.
I love
Serious.
beer.
There you go. What are you drinking anyway?
Oh, I just recently moved back to America, so I've been trying all my old favorite American beers again from my childhood. So I've been drinking European beer for a long, long time. So I like generally like stouts or brown beer, but
oh yeah,
there's something about American beer in the summer that I just love it. I can't deny it.
It's like water, so
because it's nearly water. Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to argue with a good. I mean, I grew up in the philosophy that if I can see through it, it's not beer. But I will say this: it is hard to argue with like a good Radler.
Yeah. It's just fun to be back in America and have the American beer again. But I do love like a Newcastle, like a brown ale. I'm a big fan of that. But I'm enjoying being back in America. I can't deny it.
I'm not much of a beer drinker, but Newcastle Brown, or Newkie Brown as they call it over here, it was very much favoured because the bottle doesn't smash the first time you hit someone with it.
I'm a big fan of Franziskaner myself. But it's a Hefeweizen.
I love Hefeweizen too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you got botches. You got a botch table. Yay!
And Mark, tell them about the rule of 13 when you roll a 13.
Yeah. So botches that are coming up 1 in 20 times, they come up if you fail your roll and it's a 13. So in other words, you have to be trying something too hard that you shouldn't be doing, right? And if you roll a 13 and still fail, then you maybe shouldn't have been trying to do that, right? So that means that you're trying something you're not that good at, then you can botch. So botches are very rare, and that lets us make it happen that if you do it, they're really bad. So we have that. And then a fluke is if you roll a 7 and you somehow succeed at a 7, and normally you don't succeed at a 7, right? Then that's a fluke. That means it's a special success, right? And then a natural 20 gives you double damage, and a natural 1 means that you turn into your beast. So if you roll a natural 1, that means you turn into the beast. If you're in hunger and you roll a 1, then you turn into the beast, which is the fiend, what we call the fiend. And you kind of, rage out and go nuts and start, you lose control.
Kill.
Yep. So I think we have a fun system. It's very, very simple, very easy. Our weapons all have, each classification has a unique rule, and often each weapon has a unique rule. So it's kind of a little bit more involved, but these weapons are true to history, and they work as best as I can tell. And I've got some people in the playtest who know the weapons even better than I do. So we're really honing this in to make this the most authentic weapons ever, I hope. And we actually have guns, by the way, since Renaissance had flintlocks. We do have flintlocks. The thing is, though, that wherever the software glimmer is, wherever it's a place where there's many churches and civilization, gunpowder doesn't work.
Huh. I was gonna say, what do you have like kind of the medieval rules for not wearing your armor and your biggest weapons and stuff like that in a city? Or?
Yes, cities don't allow you to walk around with any heavy weapons. So that's where you have a rapier, and you're not aware to arm, unless you're, of course, a lord, right? You know, what's the city guard going to do if a lord comes in? You know, but generally, you're not allowed to wear armor in the city. Absolutely,
unless you're a German and you want to get away with what was it, that big knife that they had? It was basically a sword. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah.
The falchion.
Yeah, was it a falchion or?
It was very, very similar, but it was I think the blade was shorter.
Talking about a sax, the large knives.
Messer.
Kriegsmesser.
Yeah, it was kind of a joke because I forget some king or prince in Germany said that that they couldn't the people couldn't wear swords and stuff in town, and so these guys took to wearing these big, huge ass knives that were called messers, and I mean basically they were like short swords. It's kind of like that whole
kind of like how batons have become hiking sticks now.
Yeah, or like the Bowie knife, the Bowie sword.
Bowie knives aren't that bad. You talk about the old Arkansas toothpick.
Those are nice. I like Arkansas toothpicks.
They are
good for throwing.
Are there weapons that are specifically designed around the absurd level of strength that some vampires have? Like
we do have some specialty weapons indeed. We have, for instance, a special. In this world, Mother Oak is this giant world tree that kind of holds the world together. And she's so big, she has entire cities on it. And then there's Mother Oaks, which are these daughters of Grandmother Oak. And if you have a wooden staff made from that, you stake a vampire, they'll be paralyzed. So you have a specialty weapon that's a oak wood stake, Mother Oak stake. We have a couple others as well. I can't remember offhand. One thing we do have, which was just play tested last night by one of our groups, and they said it worked great, is we have mass combat rules.
Oh,
which basically are just a version of our basic rules, but let you do mass combat with armies. And so and they tried it last night and said it worked fantastic, which was
fantastic.
Fantastic. It's going to be your shtick now, right? Every time you say it's fantastic.
I like it.
I like it too.
That the Power Ranger is it's Fang time.
It's Fangin' time.
So we have a flame flang blade, which is a fire blade that does 2d12 damage to vampires.
Ooh, yeah, because it's on fire.
And then we have a tangled chain cloak. Requires both hands. If you do any damage, they're grappled.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
Flying guillotine.
Well, this is straight out of old VTM right here.
The goal was certainly to grab both the D&D crowd because that's the biggest crowd, but you've also got to be faithful to Mark's already established fan base who want what you opened with Mark as a genius. Stick with that. Give the familiar give the familiar that people want from Mark. And so it's both, and it's a beautiful mix.
And a lot of people don't like 5th edition because it's trying too hard to please everyone,
It is.
So I think, a horror game that embraces horror and wholeheartedly, I think a lot of fans would like that. I hope.
Mark has been working on Fang Knight. I joined the team at the beginning of the pandemic in in 2020, and Lawthorne had already been going for a while at that point, and he has been fine-tuning this since before I joined, so at least 2019, 2018. I don't know when Mark started, and it just every iteration gets a little bit better. I like what he said when he said that we're almost on second edition. So many changes, so much feedback, so much tweaking it that it doesn't look anything like it did 5 years ago. And I think the wait has been worth it. He could have pulled the trigger on this and tried to launch it 5 years ago. I'm so glad that we didn't. I'm so glad that we have waited until it's good. And I respect Mark for waiting. I think a lot of his team has gotten frustrated, and some people have left and said, this will never come out. But I'm so glad that he has stuck to his quality standards. This, to me, has been worth the wait, worth sticking around all these years for. This version is amazing. And,
Really? Yeah.
And it's taken this long to get to, but it's been absolutely worth it.
There is something I was going to kind of comment on. Mark was talking about how he didn't like 5th edition, and I don't like 5th edition either. And I think it's one thing that he could probably agree with me on. And that is they included that hunger dice when you roll everything. So like if you get the hunger dice and the hunger mechanic goes off, then yeah, you do something, but you do it in a brutal way and everything like that,
5th edition Vampire, yeah.
Yeah. Which aggravates me because it's kind of like, well, that just kind of like takes the whole blame off of the PC.
Well, and
for everything they do.
Mark despises, I'm going to put words in his mouth and start him up. Mark despises when players lose agency, which is my one complaint about I've played a 5th edition Vampire game. It's a good game, but I don't like losing agency. And that I know that Mark's vented about that. That drives him crazy.
Player agency is the first commandment of game design, right? Like players, it's a game. The players are paramount. Like nothing's worse than the only thing worse than a killer DM is the bossy DM who takes away all fun because they make the decisions for you, and you're just basically rolling dice and doing what they want you to do, right? Like player agency is everything, and so that's one reason why we have a whole page called "Don't Plan," because when you're planning ahead for players to do a certain thing, you're taking away their agency. Right. What you should do is prepare a world for them. You should prepare an introduction. You should prepare a villain, maybe, powers that be behind the villain. But then the players can decide what they're going to do and where they're going to go. You got to let them do it. You can push in certain directions lightly, but don't take away player agency. It ruins role playing.
I absolutely agree.
Same.
How much Anne Rice is in this?
Oh, come on.
Nothing.
I don't detect any.
Yeah, it's like obviously, Vampire the Masquerade affected how people see vampires, right? So, vampires versus werewolves, the idea of clans, there's stuff of the Vampire the Masquerade has affected pop culture and the idea of vampires in such a profound way. Of course, it'd be some of that. But Anne Rice had a very poetic vision of vampires as sort of these very lonely creatures that, that sometimes got together, but mostly, had very small groups. It was very, very different from the modern conception in many ways, even though she helped spawn the modern conception of vampires. So I think, I tried so hard in Vampire the Masquerade not to steal from Anne. In fact, I refused to read her books until the last couple months. And then, of course, as soon as I read them, I realized that all the movies I stole from and were inspired by, I'd stolen from Anne Rice. So not reading it didn't help anything because, I got it secondhand,
Well, that's okay.
I mean, creativity is hiding your sources, right? So, of course, nothing we do as humans is truly creative on its own. It's creative building on what came before. Everything is stolen to some degree or another. The only question is, how far do you take it away? How many different sources are you combining, right? And if you're only combining one source, well, shame on you. But if you're combining from 30 sources, okay, that's going to be something new, right?
Just name the company after Michael Moorcock.
There is a delight. So back to this red book. Here's the homage that most people won't get. The guy that the scribe that wrote the player's guide that explored Bloodstone Isle is a scholar named Adsquill. Michael Moorcock. The Bloodstone Isle drifts through the multiverse. Multiverse comes from Michael Moorcock's book, The Blood Red Game, and the main character of the Blood Red Game is Adsquill.
Huh.
It is, and that is entirely on purpose, going back to where it all begins. But nobody's going to get that because it's very obscure.
I mean, you'd have to be a pretty diehard Moorcock fan.
That would be me. That would be me.
Who doesn't like cock?
Man, had the most unfortunate
Who doesn't
last
like
name.
Moorcock?
Wow. And so these are relicas that you can find. Oh, look at this. Artifacts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
we call them click clacks. They have these basically devices that are like they're powered by bloodstones, and there are other stones that have motes in them, and they basically are sort of wind up robots that can do things for you. So
Little steampunk.
little steampunk, little bit.
This is actually an interesting question from Savas. I wonder how a seductive vampiric immortality would be to an elf. I mean, I have my answer.
Yeah, we didn't get into it in the game because it was just too much.
Well, we don't have elves.
Eventually, we're going to have a book that will let you have vampires of all the different races. You could have a unicorn vampire if you wanted to.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be one of a kind. It wouldn't be like a whole line of vampires or unicorns, but one would be certainly interesting, right?
Does it stick its horn into people and use it like a straw, or is that how that
I mean, if you didn't do that, it would be kind of a waste, right?
Exactly.
Mark, do you want to go in? I don't know. It may be too far of a tangent. Do you want to talk about the birthrights and that they're all actually humanity, and that Fang Knights kind of washes out the differences? Or is
we
that
actually don't get into that in Fang Knight at all. We took all reference to that out.
Okay.
And so now that's going to come in when we come out with Badlander. Badlander is already written, and that's going to come out immediately. So that's, by the way, one good thing about spending so long creating this world is we already have Jason headed up the team doing the city of Valazar, which is going to be an amazing fantasy city unlike any other. That's already written, pretty much done.
It's already edited. It just needs to be.
Badlander is done. So basically, once we come out with Fang Knight, it's going to be boom, 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 boom. Right? Wow. So no waiting. Like the idea is to have this world blossom to life very, very quickly.
Oh, that's old school. I like that.
Yeah, I hate waiting. Once I get into a world, I don't want to wait a long time.
Yeah, I want to be supported pretty quick so I can keep going.
Yep. And then instead of doing, tons and tons of supplements like D&D, we're just going to come out with all these sister games one after the other, and then those become like supplements, right? So even if you're not going to play Wereborn, well, at least you buy the book because it's great enemies and great stories in it, right? Or if you love werewolves, you want to play Wereborn, boom, you buy the vampire book because that's your enemy, right? So it's not only a game in itself, but it's also a great supplement.
The more I look at this, the more I'm kind of getting like subspecies vibes from it. Not so much Interview with the Vampire or Queen of the Damned in terms of movies, but definitely subspecies, which is one of my favorite full moon series ever.
Love to hear it.
Oh my gosh. Here we go. Some actual undead.
It's a good looking book. Good looking art. Good looking book.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop looking at it.
Love the Shadow Vein. They're kind of the Fang Knight arch enemies. They're the bad guy vampires, if we can be simplistic.
They Fang Knights don't want to get blight scars. They delight in getting blight scars. But that's why they have to wear masks, because when you have lots of blight scars, it sort of destroys your ability to mix in with humans. You look too obviously monstrous.
Oh my gosh!
Back in the charts
look at the chain. Look at the charts. They're so good.
Golly.
I mean, anything you need to make up quickly, you can find a chart for it, whatever that is. Like, I think this is actually a very unique way. This is a resource. Now that we have this in a book, I'm like, wow. When I play another game, or especially run a game, and I don't have it, I'm like, oh, darn.
Wait a minute. Do you have Gong Farmer on here?
Maybe.
If you don't, you need to add it just before you go to print, because
All right.
Gong Farmer. It's kind of a little joke, because when I was working on Whitechester for Grimm, he pitched me a thing like for the Gong Farmers, and so I said,
we've got Gong Farmers in the Valazar book, I think.
Oh yeah,
and the city of Valazar. I think we've got them.
They did Groom of the Stool as well.
Oh, Groom of the Stool. All those jobs we just won't do anymore. Actually, I was a groom of the stool for a person when I was having to do in-service work, so it wasn't that glamorous.
Now they just hired turdmongers, fucking scabs.
I was gonna say, it doesn't sound like a glorious job.
It's not.
It was a very high demand, very prestigious job back when it was still called Groom of the Stool.
It was, because like King Henry VIII's Groom of the Stool was like his closest confidant, because you were literally trusted with touching the royal person on his most private places. So I mean, it's like I guess the simple thing is, if you're going to have another man's hand on your balls, you better trust them implicitly.
Yeah.
I think I'll pass.
Fair answer.
Not a royal. You don't
Thank you very much.
They also had very different ideas about personal privacy and stuff at that point in time too. So,
well, I'll be in an old folks' home someday, and I won't care.
I mean, these days we look at the communal piss trough at the the ballpark, and we're like, seriously? I mean, I don't even get my own toilet.
I remember those.
I mean, growing up, the movie theater had that. It was just a long trough. And,
yep.
You know, that was common, right? And now, and like you go abroad, like I remember my first time my parents came to visit me in Central Asia, they had the flat toilets, right? And my dad had to hold my mom over the toilet, and she lost control and fell into it.
Oh.
The whole thing, and it's like Americans traveling. It's of a certain age, like they could not adjust, right? And so I worked for the tourism department in a couple countries, and that's what I told them. I used to tell the story. I go, if you want American tourists, the first thing we need to do is that they never have to see a flat toilet. They're not going to be a squat toilet. They're not going to be able to handle it. They cannot handle it.
I've never told this story, but I will today just because it'll be funny. One of my friends was over in Eastern Europe after the rebuilding and stuff, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And as part of whatever they were working on, they were setting up plumbing and stuff in people's houses. And he said at one point, one of the neighbors came over and got upset at him because they installed a new washing machine at the neighbor's house. And he's going, washing machine? What are you talking about? So the woman drags him over to the house, and he sees there on the, on her knees is the woman's daughter just sitting there bashing away her clothes on the rim of the toilet.
Yep. I mean, if you're used to, yep. I mean, yep. I mean, if you never used the toilet for the other thing, it would actually be an okay place to hand wash your clothes.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Okay, so yeah, are the mortals of the setting essentially cattle, or do they have some power versus vampires?
Oh no, they have some power. In fact, the fangs and the crown of each realm, of each kingdom, actually have a pact. The same way in the medieval times, it was kind of like the crown and the church against the nobles. They kind of allied up against the noble families, and it was sort of a pact. Well, here it's kind of like the fangs and the order of Amarantha are allied with the crown against the nobles to kind of hold them in check. And then the church, of course, doesn't like the vampires very much, and they want to see them gone. So dealing with the court and going to court and is very key. And their reason for existence is to run these fire holds. And that's kind of the reason why they're allowed to exist, is because they do a service to the world. And in emergency, they will take their knights and they'll ride out and they'll support the king in a war or battle. I mean, they're technically sworn, like all people are sworn to a lord of some kind, of a liege. Each firehold is sworn to the king. Now, when push comes to shove, will they actually go to fight? It's hard to say. Often they do. Sometimes they don't. But yeah, if all of humans wanted to ride up against a firehold and siege it and destroy it, it would be possible to do so, right? No castle can hold out forever.
True.
It forces the vampires to play something of a political road. They can't just, we've talked about murder hobos. They can't just breeze through towns and kill everybody with no consequences. And Mark leaned into the morality concept. There is a morality. The Fang Knights have a nobility about them. So all of that plays into the genre. Go ahead.
I was going to say that kind of plays into Savo's earlier question about or comment about the political systems in the games.
They're there.
Obviously, anyone who knows my games knows I love politics, and I've worked since 9/11, doing geopolitical consulting. So I'm deeply into politics. Obviously, I was a script, I was a speech writer and did all kinds of things in politics over the years. And I think politics is one of the most human of things, right? Like anyone who is in a family, and we all are or were in a family at one time, right? Knows families are full of politics. Politics is everywhere, and real world politics is hard to deal with sometimes, right? Because it's just so intense right now. But doing politics when it's pretend is really kind of fun, and it's very human and it's very storytelling. And a lot of the best movies and the best stories have politics. So even if you're going to be doing dungeon crawling, which I'm perfectly fine with people doing that, and I enjoy it, I like a degree of politics mixed in there. I like everything to be mixed up together. A little combat, little politics, little intrigue, little betrayal, some character development, maybe even a love story.
If you're lucky.
Can these vampires get?
Sorry.
Can these vampires get down and dirty?
Yes, they can. Oh, baby. Not in hunger. Certainly not in derangement. Not when consumed by the fiend. But when in human, when newly fed, sure they can, and they even can form blood bonds with humans. So in Vampire, you can only form bond bonds by sharing blood with another vampire. And this one, if you share your blood 3 times or take blood 3 times from a mortal, you become blood bound to each other.
Oh, wow.
And it forms this deep and lasting relationship where you can even see each other's thoughts You can see through each other's eyes a little bit. It becomes a very deep and consuming relationship, but it's very dangerous as well, of course, because now, if someone captures the person you're bloodbound with, they might have power over you. So it gives you a kind of a power, but also it puts you in danger.
That's a big change from vampire already, right there, because vampire is kind of like, once you become a vampire, it's kind of like, yeah, well, sex is kind of like nothing burger because you have the blood sharing.
Yeah. And it's very common to have sex with a mortal that you're bloodbound with. That's sort of the common thing, right? So, and I put that in there because I think that, sex is just so human, and it's such a part of our life experience, and it's such a part of storytelling. Like, to just say that drinking blood replaces that entirely is not quite right to me. And I always felt I kind of made a mistake with Vampire with that. And so I thought, what's better than sex? It's sex while feeding on each other.
I mean, everybody likes food and sex. So.
Yeah. Instead of chocolate blood games, right?
It's all fun and games until she leaves you and you're living out of your carriage and she's got custody of half the zombies. Then it's not so much.
Yeah.
I kind of want to make Vampire Columbo now.
Savo said earlier, the mosquito and tick lobby feel overlooked relative to bats and vampires. Mark, you lean into spiders a little bit now.
Yes. These vampires are spider connected. So after they're embraced, they're all put naked in this spider sack and hung from the ceiling. It takes a month for them to metamorphosize into their human form. And normally this takes away their whatever makes them inhuman. So the pointed ears and the metal born, that they kind of go away sometimes. And then they got to crawl their way out. And that's all part of the session 0 adventure called the Spawning Caves, where the Firehold is watching you escape from the cocoon and judging you on how well you do and solving the riddles and figuring out things and escaping before the tide comes in.
For my viewers out there, while you're watching this, roll that section back while Mark was talking, and then look at Raven's expression the entire time.
That's almost as bad as putting me in a bag of snakes. Somebody's getting killed when I come out of it.
Oh, you hate spiders?
Well, I don't really hate them. Like not as much as I hate snakes.
Oh
yeah.
But you're talking about sealing me up in a bag of fucking spiders. I'm like,
Yeah.
No. Good thing this is imaginary.
Bats are so
Warning.
Spiders now.
I mean, I'm just over here feeling sorry for leeches. Like, we got a tick lobby and a mosquito lobby, and we're talking about all these vampires. Like, what happened? Where's my leeches at?
Yeah. The mosquitoes.
You're reviewing wording of the copyright.
And if I can pitch for you real quick, Savo is also a really great artist up on X, and she's actually doing some work with, I think, Castles and Crusades and some other stuff too. So cool. You might check out her stuff. She's really good.
Yeah, Savo, be in touch.
Yeah, she goes by Feifel the Twit on X.
Okay. Yeah, we have a Discord server, and its name is Fang Knight Playtesting.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to put up the.
Just put up your Discord link in.
I'll put it in the Discord chat, and maybe you can put up on the screen for me. Here it is.
You got it?
Yeah, I put it in the Discord chat.
In the Facebook chat?
In our SteamYard chat.
Oh, SteamYard chat. There you go. Okay, good.
We have so many systems.
There's so much going on. There's the Discord. Good job, Mark.
There it is. All right.
And the server once again is called Fang Knight Playtesting, and You can write me there or on Facebook, and I will send you a PDF, and you can get going on it. You can have your own PDF for free. Free game. I'm really looking forward to feedback, and play testing especially is important. But even if you're just a reader, that I still get very interesting feedback from people who are readers. But ideally, I want people to play a game, make a character. What you think? Cool. You know, and we're constantly updating it. We just change our mechanics, how they work a bit. So it's kind of, your idea can become in the game very, very quickly, which I think is kind of fun. It's exciting to be able to see in front of your eyes. I'm a very fast worker when I'm, when I'm, full time.
And just a quick jump over to the Kickstarter page. You can see it's not quite going just yet, but it will be.
We're waiting a bit. Once we, we want to do the giant dice. We want to do minis. We have a whole bunch of stuff ready. We could do the book now and just the book, but it just seems like, we need the other stuff too. So. But anyway, we'll have a new Kickstarter, the Puzzle Box. That will be up and made in America. Very happy with that. Probably no one outside of America was going to order it because of tariffs and shipping. So that'll be probably mainly for an American audience. Unless you're loaded.
or have American friends to ship it to you.
All right, my wife has, I guess, decided we've been on long enough, and she's back. So
that's good.
No, I'm not care for that, but I apologize.
No, you're fine.
It's in common.
Yeah, it's about time anyway. So thank you all very much for hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're catching this on the rebound, give us a like, give us a sub, go check out Mark's Discord, go check out his game. I mean, he's giving you the PDF for free. Come on now. You saw how beautiful it was. You want to play it. Yes, you do. Real quick, Grim, how you feeling? Are you going to be up for tomorrow or?
I think I'll be up for tomorrow. I am planning on it. If I have to pull out, it'll be last minute, but we'll see after Tabletop Plus tonight. So,
Okay. Let me know.
Take precedence.
Hey, got to get that paper. All right, guys. Y'all take care, and we will see you on Tuesday with Geeks.
On behalf of the staff of the Independent California Motel, I wish you all sweet dreams.